Hey guys, it's Sharon, and in today's video, we are going over the items I'm decluttering this month. So if this is your first video you are seeing from me, I have been on a journey in 2025 to be super mindful of my makeup and really try to hone in on my collection and narrow it down to things that I truly love. If something's not the right shade, if it oxidizes, if it smudges, if it doesn't last, like it's gonna go. Right? We're paring down. I don't want to be minimal because I'm not a minimalist. I like having a collection, but I want to make sure that the items in my collection are items that I actually like. So that being said, that means that week to week, I choose a whole new makeup drawer for the week with the exception of like a few items that I'm using up, like my eyeshadow primer or eyeliner, things like that. And then at the end of that week, I kind of evaluate how did the week go, what do I like, what do I not like. I kind of take notes throughout the week on a spreadsheet, and then I determine are there things from that week that need to go. And then I compile them in a bin. So this is the second installment of a monthly declutter. Now that I've started this process, it's going really well. It's helping me really kind of get a feel for the products because I'm using it for a week straight before I sort of decide. And yeah, that's the gist of it. If you would like to see January's, I will link it below. I'll also link the playlist with the Shop My Stashes. That's kind of what I'm naming them, like Shop My Stash and Review. I'll kind of review the products that I used the previous week, and then we'll shop my stash for the coming week. So let's go ahead and get into it. This month was pretty good. I found a good amount of things to let go of. I was able to really kind of make some definitive decisions on some products. I do have one standout product that I want to share with you as a favorite for the month. Everything else was sort of like, oh, I've talked about it, or like everyone knows about it. And I didn't feel like I needed to make a whole favorites video for the month because there wasn't a true compilation of standout products that I just was dying to share. Like all of it was good, stuff I like, but probably also stuff we've heard about a million times. So the one that was newer to me that I really wanted to recommend were the Sydney Grace eyeshadows. And that's again something that you've probably heard from other creators as something that's great. But I finally got my hands on my own curated Sydney Grace palette. I've tried a couple of her shadows here and there, but this time I bought a whole compiled palette of a color story that I chose, that I loved, and that is actually these top two rows right here in this Z palette are my Sydney Grace shadows. So very cool toned, kind of purpley pinkish leaning, and I love them. It's great. I loved the week that I was using these shadows. It was a super great makeup week. Love the looks. So if you've been on the fence about trying Sydney Grace, check out her website, maybe get a couple shadows, maybe even make a whole little palette. I really get why people like her stuff. It's great. All right, now into the declutter. I'm just gonna dive on in, okay? First, right out the gate is this palette from Clinique. This was something I was using just this last week. It is a 4-pan palette. You get like a matte powder. You get sort of it's called Shimmer and Glow, kind of like maybe a blush topper highlight kind of situation. Blush and Brighten, which is a very shimmery blush, and then Get Bronzed, which is a very shimmery bronzer. I'm gonna go ahead and pass this on. It's big, it's bulky, I don't reach for it much, and the bronzer has so much glitter in it, and the blush is also super glittery, that I'm just gonna go ahead and pass this on. I have other bronzers and blushes that I like, and I'm gonna let this one go ahead and leave my collection. All right, next up is a foundation. This is the REM foundation. This is Ariana Grande's makeup line. Didn't love this. I found that it says it's supposed to be hydrating. That's the claims of it. I didn't feel like it was hydrating. It felt dry. It kind of clung to some dry patches. It was a very weird application of this product. It's like it would go on and look terrible, and then give it like an hour and it sort of melted into your skin, like it warmed up, and then it looked amazing and I loved it. And then by the end of the night, it kind of reverted back to just daily wear and tear, and it just like didn't look its best. This is also like almost at a year old, if not exactly a year old. So for those reasons, I'm gonna let it go. I wouldn't recommend it. However, it does have a lot of shades, like especially on the paler side. So if you do struggle to find a shade for you and you do like a more matte foundation, you might consider it. I didn't like it's not the worst foundation I've used in the world, but it's not great. All right, next up is this Catrice All Over Glow highlight. This will be leaving my collection for a couple of reasons. The first being the packaging. I'm learning that if it's not the kind of packaging I like, I don't like to reach for the product. So this is a squeezy tube. So I've been like squirting a dot on the back of my hand using my finger or a sponge or a brush. I tried all the application methods and then just like tapped it on my cheekbones. I'm wearing it. Can you see that? I feel like you can. This is also kind of like gold, and it's not glittery, but it's almost glittery. Like it's so shimmery it borderlines glitter. You know what I mean? And out of the highlights I have, like, I just like others better. This also had an interesting smell to it today that I noticed, and I hadn't noticed that before, but I noticed it today. And it almost smelled like when you unwrap a McDonald's cheeseburger. Very specific, I know. But that's kind of what it smelled like to me. So I'm gonna let this one go. All right, next up. This one might be controversial, but I'm letting it go. My Laura Mercier loose powder. For a powder that is so expensive, why do they not have like a sifter on the top to contain that powder? This thing is so darn messy. I don't use loose powder. I'm pretty much getting rid of all my loose powders. I think I have one left that's hanging in the balances. It's gonna go. I don't like a loose powder. I hardly ever wear powder in general, and I don't need a loose one. I just don't. All right, this was the week or month of a lot of foundations that are leaving. The Tier foundation is leaving my collection, and this is actually one that I've talked about in a favorites video before. I like this foundation overall. I just determined after wearing it quite a bit that it's not the right shade. I don't think I quite have the right shade. So when Amazon puts that like on a good deal alert again, I would definitely consider getting it in a different shade. But for now, not quite right. So I'm not gonna hang on to it. And another foundation, the Clinique Even Better Skin. I got this in September of 24 as my free like diamond gift for being diamond at Ulta. They had like a whole smattering of products you could choose for free. This is one of the higher price tag items. So of course I wanna get like the most free out of the free items, you know what I mean? So I went with this. I'd never tried it before, and I have determined I don't like it. Thumbs down for sure. It is very matte. It says it's a serum foundation, so I would expect some sort of hydration. No, super matte finish, and it does say natural to matte. It does say you can get blendable or buildable full coverage. I would agree with that. It is fragrance free. I like that. It has some SPF 25. I like that. All the things sound like it's gonna be great, but on the skin, not great. Also, Clinique foundations tend to oxidize, like on me. I have yet to find a Clinique foundation that did not oxidize. If you're curious, mine's in the shade WN01 Flax. Overall, didn't like this. It just did not look good on my skin. I definitely have more dry to maybe normal skin, but definitely more dry, and it did not look great. Now, if you have super oily skin, you might like it, maybe. If you want to try it for free, you know, try that. I didn't like it. All right, next up is from CoverGirl. This is from the Clean Fresh line. This is their brow. It's like, what do they call it? Clear gel wax brow enhancer. This just didn't do anything. I also don't mind my brows. There's literally nothing in them today because I'm about to go get them waxed. At Ulta, I go just to like the benefit counter and get them waxed, so I don't have anything in them today. But this just didn't do anything. You know, like if I want it to hold my brows, I want it to hold my brows. Like if it's not gonna do anything, then I'm not gonna put a product in it. You know what I mean? So this just didn't do enough. It's gonna go. All right, a primer and mascara duo from Pure Cosmetics. It's the Fully Charged Primer and Mascara. I got this during one of the, maybe it was 21 Days of Beauty or mascara sale. I don't know. One of the sales Ulta was doing. I got them for like half off, and I don't like them. They did not look good at all. First of all, it was very not fully charged, like it says. It didn't look like a whole lot of anything on my lashes, and it smudged terribly. So both of these were a fail. Like, don't waste your money, steer clear. Another foundation is leaving. Pretty much every week I decided that I didn't like a foundation. That's what it's looking like. I think this is number 4, so that makes sense. So we're narrowing it down to favorites now. I'm going to pass on the e.l.f. Soft Glam Foundation. This one is a little bit too matte for me. I don't think the color is quite right. I would consider getting it again. I know it's a favorite of a lot of people. For me, it just didn't hit the nail on the head, and I don't want to keep something that I don't think is quite right. You know? I think that I actually need a shade down, if I remember correctly. I'll have to look back at my notes, but I think that's what I was looking for. Yeah, I do love the packaging. I think this looks really nice, but it wasn't my favorite. All right, this one makes me sad. The Benefit Roller Lash. I love this mascara, but I found that it smudged. I'm really trying to evaluate my mascaras pretty closely during this whole makeup wearing endeavor. And if something smudges, I'm gonna let it go. Like, I don't have time to be wiping smudge mascara from under my eyes. This one smudged. However, I love the brush. I love the way my lashes look with it. So if you don't have an issue with smudging, I would consider it. I only have an issue with my left eye. I've mentioned that before. So that's what makes me think this is a me problem and not a mascara problem. I just need like a really, really good mascara that doesn't smudge, you know? They do exist. So if you don't typically have an issue with like watery eyes or smudging, this is fine. A great mascara. It's been a favorite for years, but it smudges. It's gonna go. All right, next up is this color corrector from Becca and Smashbox. It's in Fair Light. It's the Pinky Under Eye Corrector. I actually used quite a bit of this, but I realized my date sticker on the back says September of 23. So that's old. And it has a bit of a smell. It's kind of strong. So that's why we're getting rid of this one. I actually really like this product, and I would definitely consider buying it again. All right, next up, another brow product. This is the Maybelline Super Lock. Again, another product that a lot of people love. Now this one, compared to the CoverGirl, this one does something. So like if you're in the camp of like, I want a brow gel and like I want it to work, go this. This was almost too much. I need something in the middle of the road of these two, you know? Which for me, I think is like the ABH brow gel. Not quite as crusty as this, more hold than this. You know what I mean? This one, I mean, it locks your brows in place. If you're going skydiving, if you're going to the roller coasters, if you're out in the windy city, this is what you want. If you've got Groucho Marx brows that are blowing every which way, this is what you want. But for someone that doesn't tend to have an issue with my brows being unruly, this was just too much for me, and I didn't care for the crusty feeling that it gave me. All right, a highlight. This is from Juvia's Place. It's the Tribe Highlighter Volume 3. This is a very pretty highlight. It's just not a favorite. It didn't end up, it's like either it looked way too intense on my face, depending on how much I applied, or if I tried to go light-handed, you like couldn't see it at all. So because of that, because I have a lot of highlighters that I love, I'm gonna let this one go. Next up from ABH is their Brow Powder Duo. This is in Taupe. It is the right shade match for me. I just found that it's a little bit hard of a powder, which of course you don't want something that's super, super powdery, but it was kind of hard to work with, to be honest. I have my little Milani brow kit that I love. I've had it for years and it's still great. I like that better than this by a lot. It's easier to work with, so I'm gonna go ahead and pass this on to a friend with similar hair to mine that could get a use out of this, because it's not a bad product, it's just one that, like, for me, I didn't love it. All right, next up is a chubby stick. This is the Sephora Colorful Glitter Waterproof Crayon in 41 Rose Gold. I determined this one that it's a little bit too creamy, a little bit too thick for what I like to use this for. I like to use these chubby crayons as like a lay down lid color to intensify the shadow that I'm putting on top of it. And this one was just like almost too creamy, too like thick. It glides on beautifully. Now, if you want to use that as an all over lid color, perfect. But that's not what I'm using it for. I'm not using it as a cream shadow. I want it to like lay down the base. Like it almost looks chunky on my hand as I'm looking at it. And to put just more shadow on top of that just made it look really chunky and kind of gross. So for that reason, I'm letting that go. All right, then last we have 3 palettes that I determined are going to leave this month. So I guess, wow, yeah, like we're just cutting through it. Now my dogs want back in. It's never ending. Okay, first up is the Jaclyn palette. This is not a good palette. It's not a good palette. You can't get it anymore. It wasn't good. I really tried to give it a fair shake. That's the whole point of doing this makeup by week. I did a whole look with this row. I did a look with like these 3 shades, and I did an all like matte look with just different matte shades, and I hated them all. I didn't like how any of them looked. I didn't like how any of them wore. I stopped using this like halfway through and just pulled out my Walking on Eggshells palette to get me through the rest of the week because I hated this so much. So goodbye. The pugs are hitting their end of the day hungries and are driving me crazy. So, okay. Next up is from BK Beauty. I technically got rid of this one in January. Like I determined to declutter in January, but I was letting my sister-in-law see if she wanted to keep it. So I don't think I mentioned it. So I'm mentioning it now. If I did mention it, oops, sorry. This is my BK Beauty palette, which I love the BK brushes that I have. I do think they're maybe a little bit overrated because they're so expensive, but like they're good. This palette I've had for a few years now. I wanted to love it because I really like the creator, but the palette's just boring. I didn't end up liking any of the looks that I did with it. It's too just, there's nothing like exciting about this palette. And for someone who likes neutrals, you'd be like, well, that's fine. But you can still have like a boring, exciting neutral palette. You know what I mean? Like if you're neutral level, you know what I mean. This was just too boring. I didn't like it. Fran is scratching again. I'm telling you, she's tearing up our doors and our walls. All right, and then the other major one I'm getting rid of. All right, and then this one's kind of a doozy. I'm honestly a little bit surprised, but at the same time, not really. Natasha Denona Soft Glam. I'm gonna let it go. Ooh, I think I'm getting a FedEx delivery. That's exciting. Now I'm in the window filming, so that looks crazy. Also, can you tell me, am I crooked? I feel like my camera looks like I'm at an angle, but it says that I'm level, so I'm not 100%. Does the video look crooked to you, like where I'm sitting? Let me know. Oh yeah, get my package. How exciting. I got some new jeans from Nordstrom, so I need to try them on. Okay, well, anyways, back to this. Natasha Denona palette. This is the Glam palette. I was super excited when this one came out on the market because it looks like a cool tone lover's dream. It was one of her more affordably priced ones at $69, which of course is still crazy expensive, but compared to where she started at like $130 a palette, this seemed more attainable. So I was very excited to get it. Looking at it, I'm like, yes, love. Using it, didn't like. This was another one that like every look I used, I just didn't love it. It was just not quite right. Something about the tones, the undertones, like it just, like using these Sydney Grace cool toned shadows compared to this, like love this, didn't care for this. So that's just me. So this will be one that I'll probably clean up and disinfect and list on my Mercari. I'll probably do the same with the True Beauty and maybe even the Jaclyn palette. Someone out there might like it. So just keep that in mind that I do that with palettes if they are not too old and they still have a lot of product. I will kind of clean them up and post them on my Mercari. I can have that linked below if you ever want to check it out. There's not a lot on it right now because I've sold a lot, but there's that. So there you have it. It was a lot of stuff. Let me see how many items we decluttered. 19 products. That's pretty good. 19 products. 19 items out of my collection for good, and I am happy with it. Good riddance. Goodbye. I'll see you never. That's where I'm at with this. So if you guys liked this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and I will continue making it. I mean, I'm gonna do it anyways because it's what I wanna do, but it would help me out to know if you like it by giving it a thumbs up. I will see you all in my next video. Bye guys.